Okay, we log on to our Delta Cell course. You gotta go select into your course. I'm gonna do this within a test course, but if you're teaching one of the other courses, you could always build a self-marking test in those. They call them dynamic self-marking tests. So anyways, I go into the testing area. So here's my testing area. You can see I already have a self-marking quiz as one of them, and I'll start from scratch. So we'd add an activity or resource. Actually, to be really from scratch, we have to make sure that we have editing on. So I have turned editing on, and now this gives me the add an activity or resource. I'm going to go to a quiz. I'm going to add it. I'm going to call it self-marking test 2, since I already had a test 1 out there already, and that's all I needed was a title. So here's my self-marking test 2. When I select it, it brings me to this page, and I can edit the quiz, but really what I want to do is go to this gear icon in the top right corner, and it gives us a whole slew of options. I'm going to get into the question part, but I do want to address the categories because this can help you in organizing questions so that you can reuse them later. If I select categories, it brings me to this page, and you'll notice there's already a bunch of categories here. I can build a new one, so I'm going to call this new category. Okay, so this is a new category. I'm going to add it. So it's going to end up under this testing area, and there's a new category. Self-marking test, default, add category. Great. So I'm going to go back to that self-marking quiz. So I've added this category in. So now, when I scroll down here and I go to the actual questions, this is where we're going to create things. You notice I can select categories. And if I go in here, there we go. What did I call it? New category? There it is, sorry. New category. So I can store questions in here. You'll see that this one already has 2 questions in it. Default for this test already has 7 questions in it. That's what those parentheses or brackets say. So I'm going to go to the new category, and that's where I'm going to store these new questions. And you'll notice there's nothing in here. In fact, just to prove it, if I went to default for test, you see there's already a set of 7 questions in here. I'm going to go to that new category again. So in the new category, I don't have anything. So I can collect this gray bar here that says create a new question. And it's going to bring me here, and it's actually called calculated. It used to be called arithmetic. They've changed the name. Calculated. So I'm going to select add. It gives me some options here, and I'm going to call it question 1. And really important here, this is the actual test itself. So I'm going to say here is a question, and I'm going to put these curly brackets around x plus y plus z. And put curly brackets around each of these. Consider these variables. They call them wildcards in the program, and they stand for unknowns, where the computer is going to populate numeric values between a set of parameters. Now, keep in mind when you're building a question, this isn't the nicest layout right now, but I'm just doing this to show the purpose of how to have dynamic tests that change their questions. We have a default mark. I have to give it a formula. So in the formula, I have to keep the parentheses of my variables. So this is telling the computer, this is how you mark this question, Z. Tolerance is, let's say this was a question that maybe had exponential functions or something to it. You might want a bit of leeway in terms of your question's answer. So maybe I can say 1. In other words, it'll give the answer as 100, it'll accept 100, 101, or 99 as an answer. You can make that a much smaller tolerance. That's completely up to you. Answers, you can display in a certain number of decibels. It can have up to 10 decimals. 2 is wonderful for our purpose. It's just going to be natural numbers we're going to do with here. So I've built my marking part, and I've built in the question part to this. So I'm going to save changes and continue editing. That's going to keep me on the same page. I just want to verify I filled out everything. Oh, yes, I forgot this one part. Grade. One of the answers should have a score of 100. So I'm going to say if they get this answer here, they do x plus y plus z, they'll get 100. I could have multiple answers. You'll see I can add here and say, oh, well, if they get S answers, we're 70 or 60%. For now, I'm looking for just one quick answer, a perfect answer in this case. So I've done that. I'm going to go to save changes instead. So this will bring me to a new page, okay? And this is asking about data sets. So same existing private data set as before. I haven't made one for this. So I'm going to say we'll use a new, use the same existing private data set as before. I'm going to say we'll use a shared data set. So shared data sets are data sets where you can put parameters, and throughout the entire quiz, they can just draw from those. So you don't have to come up with, ABC for every question. You can call it ABC in each question, and it'll pull from the same data set with those parameters. Now, you might want to change that. That's completely up to you. I've set up a new data set for each of these variables here, and you'll notice here's the data set. So right now it hasn't done anything. Here's showing an example. It could be 4.1. I'm actually going to say no decimal places, and the range is from 1 to 10. Great. Distribution uniform. You could do logarithmic uniform. We'll just leave it as uniform. In other words, this can be distributed evenly between 1 and 10. Same idea. I want everything to be natural numbers, but this one I'm going to say can go up to 100. And same idea, not natural, but whole numbers, sorry. Because I'm going to use some integers here. Negative 100 to negative 1, we'll say. So, here's an example of it where it did it with the decimals, but I'm actually going to change this. I want it to be just natural numbers instead of, or whole numbers, I should say. Reuse, previous value if available, sure, that's not a big problem. It will always regenerate or reforce it. We need to add an item. You must add at least one data set item before you can save this question. Great, so we're going to add it. There we go, so we've added it, and you'll see we've corrected it now. Now x is 2, 27, and negative 21. So now they're whole numbers. Gives us a potential answer, 29, yep, that's great. That worked out perfect. And now, here we go. This is our set that we just added. Now I can save the changes to this question, and it shows up here. Here's question number 1. I'm going to preview it with this plus and magnifying glass here. Let me select it. Here we go. Here's the potential 7, 97, and negative 11. It's giving me the technical details. Sometimes this is closed. I'm going to just keep it open for myself. Here's the question. Here's what the answer should be. So great. I know that it worked out, and here's my test for it. Perfect. It gives you a couple of other options in here, but for all intents and purposes, this is all you need for it. You've essentially set up a self-marking question now. So that's how you build them. And then you could just create a new one and continue that process over and over again.